Burnley flattered to deceive. They lost 5-2 against Spurs, and the start to their season hasn't been overly great. Many football pundits predicted they'd stay up, but we're wondering whether that's going to be the case or not. Welcome to the Premier League show. This is The View from the South. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
If you've not been here before, yes, we are a Bournemouth fan channel, but we also do this show after a Premier League game week. Sad news though, Tom. No Premier League football next weekend.
Get the music. Yeah, we're going to have to have a break, aren't we? We're going to have to have a little mini break. That's all. It'll be fine. We'll be back, straight back on it afterwards.
Yeah,
we're not going to do any international run.
Check out the results then from this last weekend then. Luton, their first game at Kenilworth Road, went down 2-1. Controversy in that, I'm sure we'll come on to that. Elsewhere, some notable results for Man City, who scored 5 past Fulham. A couple of 2-2s there as well. On Sunday, a few brilliant matches there as well. Arsenal leaving it late against Man United. Liverpool dominating Villa. And then is O'Neill getting found out? Who knows? They lost 3-2 to Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace. But the 5 things that we spotted from this weekend: does Kompany need to learn fast? His Burnley team, well, they haven't had the best start and they're now rooted to the bottom of the table without a point. And they've conceded the most goals this season. Ouch.
Yeah, it's not been ideal. Obviously, context is they're a game behind them and Luton because that game got postponed. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think it's more, I kind of admire it. We were similar in the past. We've seen it ourselves. But they've come up playing a certain style. They've absolutely smashed the Championship. And I respect the fact they've come up and they're trying to play the same way. But there's certain times they go ahead in that Tottenham game. And do they need to be a little bit smarter? Are they a little bit naive? You know, they keep playing the same way and you're going to ship goals against Tottenham. You know, the way they're playing at the moment are brilliant.
And Spurs are a team that like to play against that type of team, the front foot side, because they will absolutely punish them like they did to us.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Burnley, don't get me wrong, you can't go away from what he's been successful at doing, Kompany, and he's obviously got players for that style, but certain moments in games, you've maybe got to just manage the game a bit better. And I just felt they made it too easy for Tottenham. I mean, the fact they took the lead in that game was mad, really, because, you know, it never looked the case. So, yeah, maybe, he's a young manager, they've got a young squad. I wonder if he just needs to, with this international break, he might reset a little bit and just think, can I work on different bits? Because you get punished in the Premier League. If they'd done that in the Championship, the teams ain't as clinical. And in this league, they'll be found out fast. So, yeah, I think a lot of people surprise package for the season, but they haven't started as well as I maybe expected. They have a tough fixtures, mind.
Second thing we've learned this match week: 3 hat-trick heroes. Yes, Haaland. Yes, Son. But Evan Ferguson. Tom, educate me. I need to know about this lad because he seems to have popped up from nowhere. He did score against Bournemouth at home last season with a clever little flicked goal, but he's hit the ground running this season and he's a great striker. Yeah,
it really looks good. Another one that Brighton have got. He seems to find these players. He's probably worth 200 million now already. But yeah, only a teenager. Obviously playing for the Irish national team already. So he's obviously, if you're doing that and you're starting games at his age, and Brighton have got a decent squad, so it says a lot about you anyway. But for his age, he's got a stature about him. He's got a physicality about him, which I like. And you got to remember, he's also learning and training under people like Danny Welbeck, really experienced professionals that will only help him. But really classy finishes, mate, against a good side who didn't show it on the day. Newcastle, really, really poor. They haven't started very well at all. But we all know Brighton, they're a hell of a football team, and they were always questioned of have they got someone to put the ball in the net for all the chances they create. Well, it looks like they might do now with Ferguson, so he's definitely one to watch. And yeah, obviously shout out to Haaland and Son, who do what they do. Son looks good in this system under Ange, and Haaland's a robot.
That's what it is. Newcastle, got to say, they look poor actually. They weren't looking great, and this is a concern that this is happening now before the European football starts as well.
Yeah, I think if it had happened once Europe started, people would go, "Oh, maybe it's these fixtures, and they got to get used to it." But it's happening before that's come to play. So yeah, fixtures ain't ideal. They've had a really tough start, so it'll be interesting to see how they recover after the international break. But something ain't quite looked right the early stages. I mean, we're going to be the first people to tell you that I'm sure Eddie will be absolutely fine and get it sorted. But at the moment, yeah, it hasn't been a good start from them.
Thirdly, Poor Pochettino, but fabulous Forest. I mean, you look at the stats of the game and it looks, to all intents and purposes, that Chelsea dominated. 76% of possession, 21 shots, 3 times the amount that Forest got. But the one that went in the back of the net was for the tricky trees, and it was Elanga who scored just after half time. And Nottingham Forest, Steve Cooper, tell you what, he's doing a cracking job there. They're getting new signings through the door, but Pochettino's Chelsea, mate, boy has he got some work to do.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how long he's given, because I think he's the right coach for that job. I think he'll get the best out of them. But the amount of players they've got, what do you expect? Like, it's going to take them time, and they're keeping the ball, they look neat and tidy, but Forest, they play right into Forest's hands. That's exactly what Forest want you to do. You have the ball, we'll sit deep, we'll be resolute, and we'll catch on a break. Got some really good players on the counter. They've lost Johnson, but Elanga's looks like a really talented player, and obviously Gibbs White and Awani's powerful. So, yeah, and that's what Forest can do. They'll hurt you, and then they're really hard to break down, as it proved, mate. But it's a weird one with Chelsea, because they've spent over $1 billion, as we all know, signed all these players. I still look at them and go, but their best players are still like Sterling and Chilwell and Thiago Silva. You know what I mean? I still look at them and go, they could do with a few players. It's mad. But yeah, not been an ideal start for them. Mate. And obviously their next fixtures against us after the international breaks. That's another one they're going to struggle with. But yeah, it's going to take them a bit of time, but I think they'll give Poch it because he's the right man.
And he scored last week at Old Trafford and got the assist this week.
Yes.
For Awani. And I tell you what, Steve Cooper, honestly, he's such a good coach,
Yes,
and he will get the best out of the Forest team this season. I'm certain. I don't think it's going to be one of them where they're going to be looking over their shoulders too much.
No,
I'm sure they will a little bit, but I think they'll be certainly in a healthier position than they were last season. So credit to them there. Are there positive signs for Sheffield United? I mean, it was a 2-2 draw against Everton, but there were some positives, and they were a whisker away from winning it in the last minute as well, weren't they?
They were, and don't get me wrong, Everton are a team that every team probably feels like they can beat at the moment. Everton haven't started very well. Even in the Cup, they looked poor and got lucky to get through that. But what we'll say is Jordan Pickford was man of the match in the game. So a Sheffield United team that everyone's tipped to probably come bottom or near enough. And I just felt that they would struggle to score goals, but they scored a couple in the game, and Pickford was man of the match. So there are signs there. I think Hamer was a really good signing from Coventry, and then Cameron Archer played really well. Just come in obviously from Villa, was at the Under-21s tournament with England. So he's obviously got a good high ceiling, and I kind of respect him in the sense that he could have just sat at Villa, big football club, and played second fiddle to Ollie Watkins, but he's obviously gone, I want to play. And I think he started really well. I thought it might take him a bit more time, and yeah, I like the look of him. And I actually think the few games I've seen Sheffield United, I think they've looked better than I thought they would. We just spoke about Forest; they were unlucky in that game as well, and they're creating chances. And you know, Everton, haven't started very well. They're still a tough nut to crack. And I thought Sheffield United, fully earned that point. And like I said, if it weren't for some Pickford heroics at the end, they would have won that game. So yeah, I don't think there's anyone. I think they look better than Luton, put it that way, which I wasn't sure if that'd be the case. I don't think Sheffield United will get cut adrift. I think they'll scrap it out for large parts of the season, and if they can add a few more goals, then they might surprise a few.
Yeah, so it's not all doom and gloom for the Blades. I know that many of them were sort of disappointed with some of the exits that they had, but the players are getting through the door. If they can hit the ground running, well, superb, and kudos to them. Point 5. Take off your Bournemouth hat and put on a neutral hat. But has Gary O'Neill learned anything? Of course, as Bournemouth fans, we know what he was like, and credit to him for keeping us in the Premier League. At Wolverhampton, his team put in a sterling effort that first match.
Old Trafford.
At Old Trafford, yeah, and then they got a win at Everton, didn't they? But this time on Super Sunday, they were against Crystal Palace, where they came away losing 3-2. And you look at the stats from that game, and they dominated possession. They had a decent amount of shots, but they came undone, and arguably it could have been some managerial decisions that led to that.
Yes, I would say so, and I think that's what we're alluding to here. It's 3-2 at Palace, tough place to go.
Always.
And like you say, they had a fair amount of the ball and some shots, but the glaring one is that Palace, that was the most shots on target Crystal Palace have had in 11 years, which is a surprise, obviously, that sort of stat.
Yeah.
But I kind of went, that's what teams did against us when we had Gary Neal, because they do sit like that. But I think, a few of the things that, just from a Bournemouth perspective, that we saw with Gary Neal that seemed to come into this game in particular, not only is kind of talk after the game where he said that I never saw us in danger of losing that football match. But at 1-1, when they equalised, he took off a striker and brought on a defensive midfield player. That's what he did for us, constantly. And a lot of the Wolves fans, rightly so, in the comments were saying, if you never saw us losing the game, why at 1-1 are you taking off a striker and bringing on a defensive midfielder? Because you're obviously not worried. You just go on and win it. It must be frustrating for Wolves, because they've got some good players. I don't think Palace were ticking brilliantly, and they just sat off them. But as soon as they equalised, they just went retreat, and that's what we used to do.
One of the things you said last season is that if you look at the stats of a particular game, look at the possession stats, if we've got more possession, we've probably lost the game.
Yeah, and that's happened
here. 100% what's happened here.
Yeah, that's happened here, and it was just that the way I was watching the game and the way they retreated as soon as they equalised was textbook O'Neill. I don't mean that in a horrible way, but we've kind of said, I think we might have even said it on this show, but bits and bobs when Wolves got Gary Neal, I said, let's not be too critical here, because Gary Neal coming to Bournemouth, he got the job done. So maybe he's going, right, now I've got a full season with a group, I want to do this philosophy. At the time at Bournemouth, I just needed to keep him up. But if I was a Wolves fan, I'd be worried that the same things that we didn't like crept in that game. It might have been a one-off game, and he might address that now. But from that game alone, I felt that was so Gary O'Neill.
What he'll tend to do is every so often he'll get results to bring people back in.
Yeah.
But then they'll get annoyed, and then he'll pull you back in again. And he may end up keeping them in 17th or whatever. You don't know. But
my worry
it's a hard
for them,
watch, isn't it, Wolves fans?
Yeah, and my worry for them. Sorry, Job. I was just going to say that my worry for them is that last season they struggled with goals. Yeah, now Wolves have always been quite solid, but they struggled to score goals. They've got Gary Neal, and they've just had 4 shots on target when they had all the ball. They don't, do you know what I mean? They've had to score half of their chances in that game. They've still lost.
And also when their main men are out, then you look at the squad depth thinking, have they got it? I don't think they have. So it could be a long season for them. Those are the 5 things we've learned from this Premier League match weekend. Now, look, official observations at the end. We're chucking this in because there's always some controversy. This week, one point of note, maybe 2, maybe 4 different things. Firstly,
right, go on.
Our game.
Yep.
It wasn't overly bad, but his watch wasn't working.
His watch wasn't working.
Change the batteries of your watch. So Jensen fired in a ball. Our keeper should have done better. It went over the line. He played on. His watch wasn't working. We thought we got away with it, but others are just put batteries in the watch and then it'll work. But look, that's not the main talking point. Manchester City, they beat Fulham 5-1. We know about Haaland. However, Marco Silva
he was not happy.
Was very upset.
He was not happy. I mean, he does get like that, doesn't he? But having watched it, I think
he's got a point.
He has got a point. I know a lot of people will go, they lost 5-1, but there was a pivotal moment in the game, and there's no way you could tell me that Akanji isn't affecting Leno's movement, eyesight, without touching that ball. Of course he is. You're a goalkeeper and you're waiting, you don't know if he's going to touch it, you don't know what's going to happen. And that, how they've looked at that and gone, nay, and impacted the goal was a joke in my opinion. So yeah, you got to feel for Leno and for Fulham in that one, mate. It was when you're playing Man City, you certainly need the rub of the green. You know, you're playing Man City, you need everything to go your way. So when decisions go against you, it must hurt. And I think Silva, with some of the players he's lost and bits and bobs, he's probably a little bit vulnerable at the moment. So things like that happening, he didn't keep us cool.
That wasn't the only VAR issue. On Friday night, a decision in the last minute after Luton had pulled one back against West Ham. Was that not a handball in the box from James Ward-Prowse as it came? I mean, that's a natural position, is it? Is it?
I know. Listen, I've always been one that I don't like these giving us handball. I think the ball's going to hit your hand now and again, blah, blah, blah. But some of the handballs that are given, that's got to be given then. It's this thing that we keep saying, we consistently say it's the lack of consistency. Because the amount of handballs that have been given that aren't as clear as that. So I don't get it. I don't get what's clear and what's not. I feel like West Ham got away with one there. Luton probably would have skanked it, but that would have been some limbs at the end, wouldn't it, for the first Premier League game at Kenilworth. But yeah, I think Ward-Prowse got away with that. I think that's probably, in this day and age, I'm surprised that wasn't given as a handball.
And VAR potential controversy. Well, fan channels like Stretford Paddock think that the lines were being drawn a different way when Garnacho strolled through to beat Aaron Ramsdale. Apparently it wasn't offside. VAR said it was, but we're still moaning about the lines. How's it come to this, mate?
Well, to me, I just think that the lines look fine. He was offside. I don't know how you can say. I mean, even Ten Hag is just, I mean, he's been proper going for it. He said they should have had a penalty. Yeah, I think that would have been harsh. Arsenal did get a penalty. They got overturned, by the way, so he got that one, which was rightly done. He thinks they should have had a foul for the Rice goal. Would have been harsh. And he moaned about the lines, which were there. The irony, I'm not trying to have a go at Man United, but the irony, Wolves game, Onana assaults her, just comes out like, I don't know what he's wrestling, fine, absolutely fine. Rashford goes down, like barely brushed aside, they get a penalty. The decision, if it wasn't for decisions, Eric, then you would have got even less points than you've already got. Yeah. The irony of him moaning was laughable, in my opinion, absolutely laughable, because they have had decisions go their way consistently this season. The 2 games they've won, decisions were a massive part of that. Yeah, so, yeah, the irony was hilarious. But bloody good game, by the way, that was.
Yeah,
really good game.
Really game.
And we said about, Rice not being happy last week, but Rice baby at the end of this one. What a moment for him.
And look, Bournemouth link, POCH against West Ham, Gabriel Jesus at the end, sending him on his way.
Jesus. Who was it that slid? Johnny Evans, wasn't it? Yeah. He sent him to the devil, Jesus, didn't he? Absolutely brilliant.
But Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire finishing that match.
How can they spend the sort of money they spend and they're left with in 2023? Them two, your centre half pairing. Oh, that's a while. I know they had injuries.
No top 4 for Man United this season. Maybe we're wrong. Put it in the comments. Yeah. Any people for a stinker for you, mate? Managers, players? Any shouts?
Well, you mentioned earlier that I had to take off the Bournemouth bias hat. Blah blah. I'm going to do that really big time now.
Right.
Stinker of the weekend, Eddie Howe. Yeah, no, don't stay. Right, hear me out, right. Genius, do not get rid of the guy, Jesus Christ. The best manager in the world, I love him. Right? I love him more than most of my family, right? But, in that game alone, he got it wrong.
He did get it wrong.
He got it wrong for me. There's certain changes I felt they needed to make, he didn't make. Changes didn't work. They haven't looked right so far, and he's I mean, if anyone's going to turn it around and get it right, it's him, but you got to say what it is, mate. They haven't started the season well, so he would probably be my shout. Let us know if you've got any suggestions. I think hero-wise, you obviously have got to name the kind of hat-trick. There's 3 hat-trick heroes, for God's sake. They've got to be in there, but I think you've got to give that shout, especially after last week, for Declan Rice. What a moment for him. And at the Emirates at the end, they put on Vanilla Ice, didn't they? And he was loving it. So yeah, he's got to have a shout as well. But yeah, let us know your kind of heroes and stinkers of the weekend. And yeah, it was some goals, weren't there? I mean, it wasn't even match of the day bias, but we were last on after a 2-2. But you could kind of get it this time. There were so many good games. The only one that didn't have many goals was a great win for Forest at Chelsea. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of goals, which is always good to see, mate. And another good game week, I thought. Another good game week and a break, and then we're back to it. If you haven't subscribed already, we wish you would. It would really make us happy if you do. So we're happy to wait. Thank you very much. And also like the video as well. Tom, it's been a pleasure. Yep, loved it, mate. And are we going to do an international show? No, let's not. Can I rest? Cheers. See you later. I'm not doing England shite. God. Oh, let's talk about bloody Faroe Islands game. Back in the day!